From Wall Street to Main Street to help small business owners have the same capital as corporate America and give them the same resources as a larger company. We cover business funding, business credit, scaling, business consulting, and much more. Check out the website at shieldadvisorygroup.com. Welcome to the show, The Liquid Lunch Project.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Take Two of the Liquid Lunch Project. I am Matthew Meehan, alongside my partner, the Professor Luigi Rosabianco. What's going on today, Lou?
Matt, we're going to take it back to the beginning. Most global GDP started with brick and mortar, the general store. And we've gotten away from that. We have a SaaS business, we've got service providers, we've got e-commerce. But I really wanted to take a step back today and go back to the beginning, the core values, the core roots of global GDP. And it's the retail business. And no better person to speak to that topic than Alvin Narsey, the retail business coach on a global scale. He coaches businesses in Oceania, in Europe, in North America. So Alvin, welcome to the Liquid Lunch Project. And right off the bat, just tell us the state of affairs of retail today.
Thank you for having me, Luigi and Matthew. State of retail affairs in the world today. Well, I think it's all moving in a positive direction. As retailers, obviously we had the pandemic, we're coming through the pandemic, and just like every other business during the pandemic, retail had to make some pivots and shifts in their business model. And I think they were for the better. Many retailers had to offer all sorts of different services, mainly deliveries. And where I was anyway, in Melbourne, Australia, we had a lot of restrictions. So a lot of retailers couldn't even open. So we had to move to an online model. And a lot of retailers did that successfully and are still trying to do that successfully as well. So I see as we're moving out of this pandemic phase into what we consider post-COVID life, we're finding that a lot more retailers are starting to become more efficient. They are taking on new initiatives, and all these are going to be really great. And in the end, it's the customer that wins because hopefully they're getting a lot better service and a lot better delivery of their products in a way that makes it easy for them to shop, which is hopefully what retail is all about.
Alvin, let me ask you just a quaint question. Are people waking up in the morning and saying, I want to open up the lemonade stand? Is that still happening?
I don't think so. I think what is happening now with this thing, which I know is happening in the US as well, called the Great Resignation, I don't think they're moving towards lemonade stands, but I think they're trying to figure out what else they want to do in their life. And I don't think it's necessarily retail. I think there's a lot of movement into sort of a consulting type thing, or really a lot of people now in Australia anyway, from what I've observed, are sort of taking a step back and just realizing I only want to work part-time and that kind of thing. But I do see the emergence of really smart and snazzy retailers trying to do some really, really good things. But I wouldn't say it's ubiquitous like a lemonade stand yet.
So Alvin, metropolitan global cities were set up with Main Street as the focal point. Whether it's Melbourne or Fifth Avenue in Manhattan or right. Trafalgar Square in London. I mean, I could give you analogies across the globe. It was centered around retail city centers. If those are no longer the focal points, I mean, we've got several dozen $1 trillion of expensive retail we have nothing to do with.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point you raised there. But I would challenge you politely that I think
this is the Liquid Lunch Project. We're not polite, man. We want to learn. Challenge me.
Yeah, I don't think I know that what you're referring to as the high street retailer is definitely not dead. I think with the advent of online shopping and the growth of online shopping, there is still a nostalgia and there is still a large part of the market that does enjoy going into a retail shop. So what I think we're definitely starting to see is what we call in retail jargon the omni-channel approach. So you're going to find a lot of retailers, and you'll find this with smaller mom and pop retailers as well, they're going to have a shop, a retail floor, plus they're also going to be selling online. So there is something to be said about the retail experience. When you as a consumer are walking into a store, you can definitely get a lot better advice. You can speak to a human being. So I don't think it's dead. I think it's just evolved.
So, in the space that you've come from, the pharmacy space, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think there's always going to be a need for a retail pharmacy because you're going to have questions and you want to have that one-on-one encounter with a pharmacist or somebody who knows about the medications.
Sure.
But you also have companies like Amazon here in the States and companies like CVS buying up all these mom and pop pharmacies, right? How can a
Yep.
mom and pop pharmacy, and I'm asking specifically about this industry because this is your background, right?
Mhm.
Compete with these larger behemoths?
Yeah, totally. It's not such a unique situation. I mean, this happens in almost every industry where the big guys come along and gobble up the mom and pops because everyone was really a mom and pop in the beginning. And I think we just need to focus on the fundamentals. There are definitely things that a small to medium sized business can do much, much better than a large conglomerate type situation. And the main thing is, I believe, is focusing on customer service. By understanding your clients a lot better and having the team in place to serve your clients a lot better, you can definitely win the game. And there's a piece of the pie for everyone. There's room for the large big box retailer pharmacy guy. There's definitely room for the smaller person as well. So focusing on your service. And there are also a suite of product and services that you as a smaller retailer can provide that the big guys won't even touch. Maybe it's because they're always working on an efficiency model. There are some services that they won't even touch because they perceive it to take up too much labor costs. So there's still plenty of room for everyone in the marketplace. And in terms of ownership, if you're an owner, there's still plenty of money to be made. We just need to work out what your point of difference is going to be, what you enjoy as an owner, what you're good at, and really go hard on that.
So let me ask you this. How did you manage your cash flow when you were rolling up these pharmacies in Australia, right? Because the
Absolutely.
majority of your money is not coming from the end customer, it's coming from the government. And I know here in the States, when you're dealing with Medicaid and Medicare, you can go 30, 60 days without payment. And that could be
Absolutely. Yes. It's a real situation. So you really need to factor that into the way you do business. And how do we deal with it? Well, the first thing that we did, we always tracked our cash flow. So I think that's super, super important. So if we knew at this moment in time, which way the cash was coming in, we could then sort of factor in what was coming in the future. But you're right. You need to build up, in our case, in the pharmacy case anyway, you need to build up sufficient cash reserves for about 1 or 2 months just to allow for these often delays in payments coming through from the government. It has gotten a lot better, though. I must say, in Australia, it's gotten much, much better. We've moved away from a paper-based system now to an electronic system, so that makes it much, much easier to run your business. But certainly when I first started, it was a real challenge. And the way around that was to create a buffer first.
So how did you get into the pharmacy space? Give us the background, the origin story.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I studied as a pharmacist, and after I graduated, I went overseas for a little while. I came back and I was like, now it's time to really rock and roll. So I hustled my way into a partnership. I didn't have any money to buy my own business. So I found 2 older partners, and they were looking for a junior partner as well, someone who could help them grow the business. And so I was able to provide my value proposition to them. I was young, I was 27, I was hungry, I wanted to make a lot of money, and I was happy to work. So I got into these businesses, and then from there we started to basically buy and sell and grow. And then eventually, we went our separate ways, and I had my own store.
Fantastic. What were some challenges that you faced when you were buying and selling some of these corporations?
Yeah, sure thing. So selling part was pretty easy because what we would do, I always worked with business coaches from the beginning because I was really impatient and I wanted to get results really quickly, and I'm okay with getting help. So I had a business coach, and one of the first things that you do when you work with a business coach is you always try and optimize for profitability, and you always try and optimize for the sale of your business, even though you may not even sell it. So the selling component, lucky for me, was super easy because everything was set up, all the books were set up. We were really focusing hard on profitability. So that was the easy part. But when it comes to buying businesses, that's where the fun begins, because not everybody has their books in order. So the real challenge is to go in, because the person who's selling the pharmacy, the vendor, wants a particular price. And when you go into due diligence phase and you start to look at the numbers and they don't marry up because, they have only just sort of put together the financials in the past 3 or 4 months, there's the challenge there is the continual back and forth. And then, really trying to get the vendor to justify the sale price, because it doesn't really stack up. But, wading through financials is not fun, especially when they're all over the shop.
Alvin, I want to change our focus just for a second. Matt and I have this experience, and, when something happens continuously, it's no longer happenstance or coincidence. There's a fact pattern here. We do not have any successful clients that are either amoral or immoral. There is this connection that comes with keen morality and success.
Yeah.
If you are successful, Alvin, in any metric I use, what moral obligation does a pharmacist or a pharmaceutical business owner have to this drug problem that we have that is acute in America, but I think is rampant on a global scale? Walk us through the challenges you have in the classic retail transaction.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're right. This drug issue is a really, really big issue all over the world. So I can only speak for what went down in Australia, because I've only practiced in Australia as a pharmacist. So, I mean, we had one of the key initiatives that we had in all our businesses was, I'm sure you are familiar with the methadone program. It's for people who have got opiate addiction. So, and helping them maintain or get off that addiction. It's a dependency program. So I was always very keen on doing that and making sure that we had a program in our businesses to help these people. And that's a challenge in itself. Not only are you dealing with the stigmatism associated with that, plus also, these people coming into your pharmacy and making them feel welcome, because, a lot of them are just regular people like you and I, and they don't want to be treated in in any sort of special way or spotlighted in any special way. So, you want to be able to look after them discreetly and allow them to carry on their business. So there was that. And also there's the other obligation of, dispensing these drugs and making sure that they are the right fit for the client, because quite often a doctor will prescribe a medication. As the pharmacist, you're kind of like the last line of defense before we give it to the patient. So there were definitely obligations there, if it wasn't the right fit, to then go back to the doctor and, ask for another recommendation, or not even challenging the doctor, but just, maintaining some sort of, making sure they understand the situation with the patient.
Thank you, Alvin. Alvin, Matt and I had a similar experience when we were teenagers. In America, after school, you got a part-time job just to kind of help pull your own weight. And if you wanted a new pair of sneakers, it was an easy way to access a little bit of affluence. If you could talk to your 14-year-old self, Alvin at 14 years old, given today's economy, and we've just gone through the merits or demerits of the retail trade. And I don't know if that 14-year-old wants to work at a fast food shop or he probably wants to be an influencer, right?
Yeah,
what advice do you give to the 14-year-old Alvin to give him the life skills to be successful in whatever trade he chooses?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Wow. I think I would go back and tell myself to really look at what I really enjoyed at the time and continue to do it and make those mistakes. I made a lot of mistakes when I was younger, and I don't think I would go back and fix those mistakes. There was nothing really major, but I think go through your experiences, and the only caveat I would have would be to try and learn from them, because all those experiences that formed my youth, working in all the different places that I had and the experiences that I had, I think I definitely needed to go them to then come out on the other side and be the Alvin that I am now. So have those experiences, embrace them, try and learn from them as best as you can, as whatever you are, 14 years old. But just keep going through them.
Alvin, yeah, You started out as a pharmacist. You hustled
Yeah.
your way into a partnership. You bought and sold multiple pharmacies in Australia. COVID hits, and then you take off across the world. So what are you doing now, my friend?
Yeah, sure thing. So when I sold my pharmacy business, I was working with a business coach at the time, and his name was Glenn. And he was, it was like, Alvin, what are you going to do? And I was like, I have no idea. I'm moving to Germany. I might buy an online business. I'm not really sure what I'll do. I spoke to him a couple of weeks later, and he was like, Alvin, you're really good at implementing execution, and you've really taken on what I've said. You should really think about helping others do the same. So I really thought about it, and I was like, yeah, one of my highest values personally is service, and I love helping people. That's the pharmacist in me as well. So that's what I decided to do. I decided, okay, so I'm going to help other people in their business, retailers, and I'm going to help them with their cash flow and profitability. So when we moved to Germany, even before when we moved to Germany, that's when I started working on this business and helping clients out.
So that's two big moves. You decided to travel across the world and totally switch careers, right?
Yeah.
So talk to us about the transition during COVID, right? From Australia to Germany. What are some good points from moving from Australia, and what do you miss a little bit?
Okay. So, the reason we left Australia, Melbourne specifically, I think it was probably the first or second place in the world that had the most stringent lockdowns, right? So at one stage, you could only leave an hour a day to leave your house. You could only walk within a 5K radius. It was just crazy. So we decided to leave and come to Europe. My wife is from Germany, so we decided to come here. So what was that like? So that involved me deciding to sell the business, which was pretty easy. She quit her corporate job. We put everything into storage, sold the cars, rented out the house, and we moved here in Germany. And really easy for me because one of my top values is adventure and freedom. So, I love this stuff. I love exploring the world, and Europe is a great base. Germany is a great base to explore the rest of the world. We're doing heaps of traveling. So it's been super fun for me. What do I miss about Melbourne? Not much. Apart from my family, I got my mum and dad and my sister and brother-in-law there. But really, man, this is one big adventure for me now. I mean, I get to travel. I get to help people out. I'm meeting new people all the time. I'd never done a podcast in my pharmacy career since then. And now I'm doing podcasts every day nearly. It's just a whole new world, and it's super exciting for me. So, as long as I'm constantly exploring, learning, it's just so much fun.
Alvin, we've had this amazing demographic shift stateside because people will vote with their feet. And we found that the states that are more business friendly have experienced exponential population growth. And those that are not business friendly, well, you just figure it out. I.e. California and New York.
Correct.
How did you find the business environment in Germany?
Wow. It's totally different here. It's really interesting, right? I'll just speak about retail. So I'm in Stuttgart, just south of Stuttgart at the moment. And it's really interesting here. It's almost, I dare say, a little bit backwards. So here are my experiences when you transact in Germany around here. First of all, you still need to carry cash, which I thought was super, super interesting. I think of Germany, I think of Mercedes-Benz, I think of Porsche, really advanced technologically wise, but still a lot of places don't take card. You can't pay with your phone either, which is super interesting for me. I mean, back when I was running the pharmacy-based business, we hardly had anyone with cash, especially with COVID. And why would you want cash? You pay with a card, it goes into my bank account straight away. There's no delay. You don't need to go to the bank and bank the money. So that's one of the major things that I'm noticing here. You still need to carry cash. And that just blows me away. The other thing I've noticed about hanging out over here in Germany, respectfully, is the amount of friggin' paperwork. These guys love paper. So they haven't really rolled out their digital strategy sufficiently yet. You still need to go places with paper, and they still photocopy things, and then they file it away. It's like hilarious. It's really it's been very interesting for me to observe, and now I just accept it because I'm choosing to live here. So
Alvin, out of curiosity, what's the cost of, I'm going to try to get this right, Matt, a liter of petrol?
Yeah, a liter of petrol we saw the other day. I think it's like €3. So what's that in US? 3.20.
That'll come out to about $11 a gallon.
Maybe. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, yeah. So and we're noticing the price of a few staple things. Obviously, we're close to Ukraine as well, and Germany's getting caught up in that whole gas thing, the supply issue thing. So we're seeing a few increases with everyday items like vegetables and etc. So, but yeah, they're the main differences I've noticed here in Germany compared to with Melbourne. It's really, really interesting. But this is if you go to Berlin, which is like a Western metropolitan equivalent of LA or London, it's totally different there. So you can pay everything with card. It's just that in this area I am down south, it's a little bit different.
So Alvin, when you engage with a client and you decide you want to work with somebody to bring them on, what are the first couple things that you look at to try to improve their cash flow and profitability?
Yes. So would you believe it? The first thing I do is I work on a mindset piece. And basically, I find that we often need to take a step back with the business owner. We need to look at what they want out of life. What do they want to experience? What makes them happy? What are their hobbies? And also, ultimately, what do they want this business to provide for them? I think that's a big missing piece that business owners make. They kind of get into business without really looking at what this business can provide for them, or perhaps not even realizing that this business can be the vehicle for them to live their dreams in their life. If we look at what Michael Gerber used to say, or still does say, sorry, in the E-Myth, a lot of retail business owners are technicians. They're really good at their skill. They get in and, they're basically getting a glorified job. So my first mission when I work with somebody is to take that step back. And I'm so surprised that not a lot of people have actually taken the time to take the step back, to have a look at what they really want out of life. And, it's quite a challenge sometimes because, you're kind of looking within, you're having to take a really hard look at yourself, and it's often very difficult to do.
What do you think the biggest, well, we experience this all the time with our clients and other business owners, but what do you think the biggest reason is that is it fear that they're afraid to take that step back and hand over the reins to somebody else?
Yes, that's another big thing as well. Yeah. I mean, it's that fear because we assume that we are the center of our business and the business revolves around us and all the outputs on the business depend on us. And, it certainly happens that way, but we've really got to change that thinking and really work towards the business running, not with us, without us, sorry. So, yeah, I think that's one of the big things that we need to change.
Me and Luigi have this amazing philosophy, right? You always hear, don't work in the business, work on the business. I don't want either of those. I want to work outside the business and oversee the business.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah,
and
totally.
then figure out how to optimize and make everything more efficient.
Yes.
I think taking that bigger leap, right, from buying yourself a job to actually designing a business that can actually run without you, where you can go in and tweak it, to overseeing it, right, allow you to open multiple businesses, right? You take that, usually a salesperson, right, to self-employed, then a CEO, and then that investor mindset, which is the next level. There's levels to these games, right?
Absolutely.
And I think most people get stuck on level 1 and they don't know how to get to level 2, and they're afraid to get that cheat code. And that's why they go out and hire somebody like Alvin to help them get there.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're right. Moving towards that investor mindset is super, super important, because when you get to the investor mindset, then you're really just looking at, okay, what are some of the things that I can manipulate in the business to really drive my profit, really drive my cash flow? And that kind of thinking, that big picture thinking, is so important. But you're right. There are levels, like, when you first start into business and as you slowly move up that ladder of your thinking and what's possible and what you want out of life, it takes time. And you need someone to guide you, ideally, or a mentor, or perhaps working with a mastermind group or something like that. But yeah, it takes a bit of time.
Where do you see most people fail in these areas most often?
Yeah, they fail in wanting to do everything themselves. And they fail in the fact that they realize, or they think that they are the best person for their job, and they're the only one that can do this, and they're the only one that can grow this business. And I think it's that that mindset of being the technician, which we need to move away from.
It's ego. It's ego.
Yes, absolutely.
Really
It's ego as well. 100%. 100%. And the trick is to get them to realize that. And, and that's, like I mentioned, the first piece we usually work on, is looking at your mindset and your ego, and realize that, there are other people that can do a much better job, and you don't have to slave away unless you want to. And I do meet a lot of business owners who just enjoy being in the weeds and doing everything. Good luck to you.
So, all right. So you get the mindset, you get that across to them.
Yeah.
Now comes that nightmare, what no business owner wants to do: get nitty gritty and look into their own books to see where the money's going. Right. So do you have a philosophy or a strategy to break it down step by step, so they don't say, all right, I'm not doing this, I'm out?
Absolutely. So the first thing we do, so I work with a 3-step process. And the first step is to really understand what's going on in your business, what I call understanding the visibility of the numbers in your business. And, that involves a few things, a few basic things, and that's tracking your cash flow, so we understand the flow of cash through your business. And then from there, once we've tracked it, forecasting it. I think that's really, really important, because, forecasting gives you a really good sense of certainty on what's going to happen in the future, only after you've tracked correctly, of course. I think it's really important to understand and develop a key set of KPIs, or key performance indicators, because that's only going to help us later on down the track as we start to step away from the business. We've identified a few things in our business that can move the needle. That's really going to drive profitability, revenue, cash flow. And it's those KPIs that we can start to manipulate eventually from afar in growing our business. So there's some of the quick early steps that I work with my clients in doing. And it's so simple, right? But a lot of business owners are, for whatever reason, very afraid of doing these things, or they overcomplicate it. And I think my skill is just simplifying it. So
where do you see yourself going next?
Me personally?
We just got to Germany. We're living life. We're having an adventure. Where are we going next? What's 3.0 look like for you?
Yeah, well, continue to travel. I'm going to Milan this month in May, end of May. So still continue to do a lot of traveling. I'm in the process of scaling up my coaching business to be able to get on some more coaches, to be able to take the workload off me, and also provide more value and service to the ongoing clients that are coming. Other than that, we'll see. Maybe go back to Australia, or maybe just hang out here.
You don't look too excited for that one. You don't look too excited to go back.
I really love it here. I love the new environment. It's great. I'm getting to meet new people. I'm forcing myself to go out and make friends. It's a different environment here. I'm really enjoying it. So, man, just continue to keep traveling, keep growing the business, having fun, work on my deadlift, work on my squats with a trainer. Life's good.
I made a similar move. I moved from New York to Florida about 7 years ago. So I understand what you're going through. Everything's fresh, new, exciting. I'm still trying to get Luigi to make that move, but it's tough, man. He's a tough cookie to crack.
Yeah, some people don't like the move, right? Like a lot of people are happy where they are, and that's cool.
You need a lot of cash in Florida, like Germany.
I love it.
So, Alvin, we really appreciate you being here, man. Can you tell everybody how they can get in touch with you and where they can find you on all the social channels?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. So, you can find me everywhere, right? LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, wherever. Just look for my name, Alvin Narsey. Send me a message. We can continue the conversation. Let me know that you heard me on this show with Matt and Luigi. And we can just continue the conversation from there. I'd love to hear from you and see where you're at.
So LinkedIn is the best place to get in touch with you at?
Sure thing. Yeah, LinkedIn. Absolutely.
Awesome. So Alvin, before I let you run, this season we're asking every guest on the show to describe themselves in one word.
Chilled.
Chilled like a beverage? Chilled?
Chilled like relaxed.
Ah.
I like that. That.
I think more than one word, but I think my meditation helps. It's a big part of my life. and I've constantly worked on just being super chilled. So
Alvin, thank you very much for being here, my man. We appreciate you. Everybody, we'll see you on the next episode of the Liquid Lunch Project.
thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for listening to the show. And make sure you subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a friend. We'll see you on the next episode of the Liquid Lunch Project.